Hey everybody, Ace of Trades here. I'm going to show you what I'm looking at today on the ES. And just a reminder, this is for entertainment purposes only. Please don't consider this to be financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. So what we have here, I'll show you what I was looking at today. So in the overnight, when we came in this morning, it was kind of like this. You had this move up, so I measured that, right? And then we had this kind of tepid correction, and then we had another move up here. So what I did then is I copied this, pasted it here, and then we had this, basically you have this trend, and this ends up being the retest move. So you retested, made a new high, and then prices tried to fade back down into the range. Okay, so we have an overnight high, we marked overnight low, and so also what I did is I just copied it and pasted it and I leave these here just to see if they end up being anything. So this would be a measured move that prices might try to attempt to get to. And then you had a, excuse me, I'm watching price action currently on another screen. Um, so we had, just a second. All right. So we had this as a retest, and then we had prices try to fade the range one time, and then we had prices try to fade the range a second time. And what I did here, I'll show you, this is basically a break-even trade I took. I moved my stop up. Um, this is not typically a trade that I like to take. I usually like to take my trades where a current high or low has been established, and I'm getting in on a correction to get to the rest of the um, as prices try to get to the retest the move. Like, if this was a little bit better, might have a more near-term test. This isn't where I wouldn't necessarily be considering getting long in here and thinking that this is going to retest. Although in hindsight, then you can see what happened there. So you saw this is the retest, first attempt to fade, and then we have a second attempt. And when I saw this set up, I thought we may be looking for this to make a measured move down. Okay, so I got in there. I don't like taking a trade into a place where price had bounced already, a swing there. So I gave it basically a bar to try to get out of there, because there could be people kind of trying to go long here on this second attempt and getting trapped. And that's pretty much, I think, what happened there is people got run out, their stops got run out, and then it went back up. So as soon as this bar finished, I had moved my stop up to break even +1. Um, I wasn't super confident with it, but I thought that potentially that we have a decent chance to make this second leg down, or at least try to get close to it. But it barely went 2 more points, and then you get this second leg up. So then what I noticed is I drew this as a leg. So sometimes, like I said in my first video, that the market is fractal, or it's fractal in nature, meaning it's layered. You have legs, smaller legs make up bigger legs on bigger pictures. So you have this leg, and then you're looking potentially for this to go up, and get to this measured move as a second leg, and that could happen as part of just a strong run up right up to it, or it could be a sluggish kind of move up there. So, and sometimes you'll get smaller measured moves within a bigger measured move that prices will go after. So when you get this kind of run up, you think I would immediately draw that as a leg. And then once prices fail to come down here and they start making this second leg up, um, then I'll copy that, I'm pasting that where the low of that was, and then I push it up there. Okay. Um, so then I'm watching this, and you can see that eventually I don't see any entries in here, but eventually it hits that measured move, and look, it's starting to find resistance. It does go sideways, and it may try to push up, You know, it may try to push up here into this measured move eventually too, but it eventually fails down. It can't get through that measured move. And so that's initially what prices were targeting. And you may find like we're in this correction now. And what I'd be looking for here is I'd be looking for maybe this leg here, this leg down. So we'll draw this um, as a leg down, and that's our first move. Um, so what I'd be looking for is if we get a decent setup is maybe a correction where we can get in on this trying to retest itself. Um, price trying to retest there. So here we are. We're in current price action now. And you'll see people will draw these trends or whatever. I don't. I can kind of just see that it's all one move down. Um, and so you have that. And sometimes what'll happen is, so you have this trend down here. You could initially stick your thing in there. And what happens is you see that this is fitting real nice, and now you have this. It kind of overshoots the trend. And so when you think overshooting to the downside, a trend, you think oversold. So it's oversold because it broke out the bottom of the trend. And usually when they overshoot a trend and not break it this counter trend, but they overshoot it in the direction it's going, that usually that will very often lead directly into it breaking then this way. And sometimes you have to be careful. Sometimes this will then just it'll just flat reverse, because sometimes overshoots lead to trends breaking, but overshoots can also just lead to straight reversals. So you have to be real careful about um, where you're if you're entering, and where you're in. Hold on a second, I gotta pause. Okay, back. Had a little interruption there. So what I'm kind of looking for is I wish that would not have overshot, because this buying then, the way this bar printed, this buying looks um, kind of strong. So I'm not real interested here in immediately looking for um, a short. I want to see what this does. And then, like I said in the first, the best isn't, you don't always need a measured move correction, but sometimes um, the best entries happen on measured move corrections, and then from then if you play the trade this way, you can then catch a runner. Because what happens is, if you would get something like this, like say you get, I'm just drawing hypothetically here. If you get something like this where price does something like this, the EMA, and makes an attempt, okay, and then we get a second leg up like that, and you find the price that you get a nice entry here, a nice bearish bar. Not saying it will do this, but sometimes you'll see this sort of thing. This is a great place to try for a runner, because when you get a very definitive move in one direction, and then you get two kind of equal legs of correction, price will very, very often try to make a second leg down. And because the overnight high is an area of, I guess, importance as far as related to price reaction, um, you could maybe at least expect it to try to retest the overnight high area. And sometimes you'll get that measured move. So it gives you a nice target for a runner. I don't like that because, I mean, that's a nice bar off the EMA, but I don't like it coming off this. This all looks like one leg of correction to me. So this would only be like the first attempt. And sometimes, prices will retest the extreme on a first attempt, and you just don't get an opportunity. But it's not high probability enough to enter on because, very often prices make a second attempt. All right, so if anybody entered there, they got trapped. And this is kind of looking like, and we still may get, depending on how this reacts, we still may get another leg. But the fact that we pushed down and we didn't get any kind of reaction off the EMA, very, very small. I'm not really inclined to think that we're going to attempt very deliberately to make a new low for this, especially you also have this overshoot playing in as well. So when you got like I said, when you got the overshoot, you will sometimes get a direct reversal right off the overshoot. And that doesn't mean that you want to buy here because the momentum is still down and it doesn't always directly reverse off the overshoot. Sometimes it will correct and make another leg down. But this definitely looks like, with all the bullishness that you have today, this attempt down definitely does not right now look like it is very inclined to try to fade. Now you're getting sellers coming in here. I don't really use the fib stuff too much. It's more of like, I don't like, people will sometimes trade hardcore off of it, and to me it's just one more thing to look at, but I don't really rely on it at all. So, but we're into that. The biggest places that you'll find corrections are back to 50 and the 61.8. And I kind of switch some stuff on here just for my own usage, not really related to Fibonacci. So I'll continue drawing this up. And if we get some kind of like strong move down, like it just pushes down, like down into here and then moves up, well, you could still get another attempt down that you can try to get in on. But the fact that this pushed up so strongly through the EMA, this may just be reversing now. So, that's what I've seen. It's been a very lackluster day so far today. Even from the very open, the volume was really down compared to what you would normally see at the open. It was trading at the open. It was kind of trading how it typically does at like lunchtime. So it's been very sluggish. I don't really see, other than trying that one there, I don't really see anything that's appetizing for trying to take a trade off a swing. This is too, like here you just have, there's nothing clear here. This is just red bar, green bar, red bar, green bar, red bar, and green bar. And then, it bounces here, but you can't assume that it's going to do that. It may just print another red bar down. It may just grind down lower. So especially after this move made two legs up into new high territory. It tried to reverse here. It looks like it's not going to reverse. It looks like prices want to just head higher now. So that puts this measured move in play. So we've got this measured move is already played out, and then you can see, prices tried to, there's some selling came in at that measured move, and so we may be trying for this measured move now. But I'm gonna stop the video there. I just want to give you some thoughts as to what I was seeing today. Just had this one trade that I didn't really care for, so I bumped my stop up early. It would have won depending on what I was going for here, but I ended up scratching that basically. So that's I don't want to let this run too long because then these videos they tend to get boring. Who wants to sit here and watch half-hour videos and stuff? But I'm going to stop it there. So right now I'm not interested in taking any trades this overshot. This may just move up now. Definitely this measured move is something that prices could be trying to reach. So maybe I'll come back later with another video if anything happens. But that's it for now. I'll see you next one.